Border Patrol under attack on the streets of Paramount in Los Angeles. The flashpoint, raids by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, aka ICE, on an industrial park looking for undocumented workers. It says it's arrested 118 aliens in LA County this week. Protesters trying to stop the detentions were met with rubber bullets and tear gas. Water in my bag. Now, reinforcements ordered by Donald Trump have started arriving. The National Guard. The president signed a memorandum deploying 2,000 military reservists for 60 days against the wishes of the Democrat politicians running Los Angeles and the largely Hispanic immigrant population.
I appreciate authorities doing their job, but I also appreciate the people who are at this point, they're just frightened. And when you handle things the way that this appears to be handled, it's not a surprise that chaos would follow.
It's rare for a president to federalize the National Guard, which normally operates under state command. But Donald Trump used social media to say if the California governor and LA mayor couldn't do their jobs, the federal government would step in and solve the problem of riots and looters. The governor, Gavin Newsom, has called Trump sending in the troops purposefully inflammatory, saying the president wants to create a spectacle. He's described the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, as deranged over his threat to send in the Marines. Some Democrats are accusing President Trump of turning the country into an authoritarian state, but the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, defended his actions.
We have to maintain the rule of law, and that is not what is happening. And Gavin Newsom has shown an inability or an unwillingness to do what is necessary there, so the president stepped in. That's real leadership, and he has the authority and the responsibility to do it.
In the city of Los Angeles, protesters said they wouldn't be put off easily.
It's heartbreaking to know that our community is going through this, but it's also beautiful to see everybody come out together and stand against it, and I think we need to continue doing that.
Trump, the administration, the Border Patrol, ICE, they know that they cannot go anywhere in this country where our people are and try to kidnap our workers, our people, and they can't do that without an organized and fierce resistance, and that's what they encountered here today. They're coming out.
Fierce resistance has been met with a fierce response. These the scenes yesterday at the Los Angeles detention center where immigrants are being held. Donald Trump says his intervention in the shape of the National Guard will end all this, but a further protest is planned for just a few hours' time.
Jane Deeth reporting. Well, joining me now from New York is the lawyer and journalist Raul Reyes. Raul Reyes, thanks for coming on the program. Do you think it's necessary at this stage to send in the National Guard as Donald Trump has done?
At this stage, absolutely not. It is extremely unusual in the United States for the president to send in the National Guard when a governor or a mayor does not want them present. The last time it happened was during the 1960s, during the civil rights moment. And just for context, the legal justification that the president is doing to send in the National Guard is a portion of the military code that says this can be done when the U.S. government is facing rebellion or threat of rebellion. And ironically, on January 6, 2021, when our capital was under attack, then President Trump declined to send in the National Guard. So it's hard not to see this as just a provocation, as an unnecessary provocation.
I mean, we heard the Speaker of the House there in the piece earlier saying that they had to send in the National Guard because Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and the police chiefs in LA weren't doing their job properly.
Right. And in that's inaccurate. Law enforcement like county sheriffs, LAPD in the city of Los Angeles are not permitted by law to conduct immigration actions. That is solely the job of the federal government, Border Patrol, ICE agents, so they cannot directly involve themselves in those actions. I think what we're looking at is such a volatile mix when you have Los Angeles is nearly half the population is Latino. Immigrants from all over the world live in Los Angeles. 10% of LA County is undocumented. When you add in that mix, the National Guard, potentially even the Marines, and the president who seems to be taking aim at Governor Newsom. That's truly a recipe, in my view, for disaster, potentially even violence.
So is this the beginning of something broader? Because, I mean, there are many people in the United States who fear that at some stage President Trump will, invoke the Emergency Powers Act and use, the troops, possibly even live ammunition against peaceful demonstrators. Is that the beginning of this? Or is it just one of the things that Trump does in order to detract us from other things?
In my view, it could be a little bit of both. It could very well be the beginning of, say, sowing more discord, more unrest as a pretext for then sending in more troops, potentially even more Marines. At the same time, I have heard numerous people in the immigrant rights community discussing how for Trump, politically, these type of actions divert away from talk about his controversial budget bill, his falling out with Elon Musk, and they put the Liberal Party, the Democrats, in sort of an uneasy position because they seem to be defending like civil unrest, which is a peaceful protest is a right in this country, even for undocumented people. I think much of what the Trump administration is doing in California with these immigration enforcement actions seems to be politically motivated. But unfortunately,
right. But politically, cracking down on illegal immigration, closing the border, arresting people who shouldn't be in the country is also quite popular, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the reasons why he was elected.
That is largely the reason he was elected. That was his signature issue. His campaign promise was mass deportations. What's interesting is now, as we've passed 100 days of the Trump administration, his approval on immigration, which for years has been his #1 issue, it's about split with the American public as we are grappling with the impact of more aggressive immigration actions. Just this week, we saw parents arrested at an elementary school graduation. These workplace raids targeting basically just ordinary workers. So I think we may be seeing something of a sea change in American public opinion.
All right. Thank you very much, Raul Rose. Thanks for joining us from New York.
Thank you.